Okay, story time about the most invasive, horrible landlord I have ever had. Now, I was a property manager for 16 years, so I'd like to think that I never made my tenants feel the way that this lady made us feel, but anyway, so 2010, 2011 was a horrible year for me, and I do mean horrible. In September, I lost my grandfather, my mother's father. In November, I lost my father. And then in May of the very next year, 2011, I lost my grandmother, my mom's mom. So it was a very, very hard year. In the meantime, something really bad had happened at the apartments I was living in. And so my husband and I decided we had to move. I could not stay there because of what had happened in the apartment next door. Long story for another time. But anyway, my dogs are playing. So anyway, I had this landlord, really, 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 really nice couple. And they let us out of our apartment lease after what had happened. And I was pregnant. I was about 6.5, maybe 7 months pregnant at that time. And it was already a very high risk pregnancy. I mean, so high risk that when I hit about 7 months, they put me on complete bed rest. So I was out of work because I was having to go for stress testing every day. And my husband was working himself like crazy, but we had no money. It was just, it was a very, very, very bad year. So anyway, we moved into these apartments in another town. And I swear to you, to this day, I am convinced they are an old motel, with the old wall units and the little patio on the back. I'm convinced it was an old hotel. Well, anyway, so we moved in there in July, I'm going to say mid-July, and then October 1st, they induced labor on me. I was like maybe 8 months, 1 week pregnant, so my daughter came very early, but anyway, so they induced labor, and I had to go to the hospital, and that week I had noticed some things being moved around in my apartment, but I had a baby coming. I wasn't home a lot. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. And I thought, well, maybe my husband moved it, and at that time I had a 6-year-old daughter. So maybe she had moved it. So I went and got induced. And that night they took my daughter to the NICU unit, and she had some health issues, which were going to make her stay in the NICU unit. So during that time, I was traveling back and forth because they would kick you out of the NICU unit at certain times for shift change and blah, blah, blah. So in the morning when they'd kick us out, I would go to my mom's and hang out with my 6-year-old, because during that time, I could not have her running with me. She was going to school, and it was just, it was rough. My dad was in the hospital. I was sick. Just a really, really, really rough time. Well, so I'd go hang out with my mom's, and then I'd go back to the hospital, and then in the evening when they'd kick us out, I would go home for the night. And so when I'd go home, like, pots and pans that I had left on the counter were put away. And I was like, I know it wasn't my husband because he was with me, and I know it wasn't my daughter because she was at school or at my mom's. And I was like, something's not right here. And then I go into the bathroom, and my towels were hung up that I had draped over the shower curtain. And I go in my bedroom, and there were clothes folded up and put on my bed that I knew I'd worn. So if I'd worn them, they were in the dirty clothes, or because I was, kind of lazy at the time, they would be on the floor. Well, I started getting really confused, and I thought, somebody's coming into our apartment. And my husband was like, no, nobody's coming in, honey. You're scatterbrained. You don't know what you're thinking. Well, I came home one night, and there was a note taped to my refrigerator. And the note said, hey, I know that you're busy, and I know that your daughter is in the hospital, but I'd appreciate it if you quit leaving your dirty underwear on your bedroom floor. And it was not signed. And I was like, what? What? Okay, first of all, I'm a grown butt adult. So if I want to leave my dirty underwear on the floor, I'm going to leave my dirty underwear on the floor. That's all there is to it. Second of all, I am home from like, I don't know, at that time, I think it was like 11 o'clock till like 5 a.m. So I was sleeping the whole time. We were home to sleep. That was it, because we were working. He was working 12-hour swing shifts. I was trying to work and going back and forth to the NIC unit because my daughter still wasn't home. And there was this note. And I was like, okay, this is freaky. I want to change my locks, but I didn't have time. Well, I came home, I want to say it was 2 days later, and my landlord had left another note on the refrigerator. Now, I know it was her the first time because she signed the second one and the handwriting was the same. And she was like, if you're going to keep leaving your dirty underwear on the bathroom floor and on the bedroom floor, then I'm going to start charging you a cleaning fee. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not renting a room in somebody's house. I'm renting a whole ass apartment. Nobody should be in here messing with my underwear. And that's my business. I pay my rent. That's my business. It's not, my apartment wasn't dirty, but when I'm coming home at 11 o'clock at night and I've got to be at the NIC unit at 5 o'clock the next morning, it's like, I don't care that I dropped my underwear on the floor and crawled into bed. I don't care. So 2 days later, I saw the landlord out in the parking lot and I was like, did you leave this note on my on my fridge? Have you been in my apartment? And she was like, yeah, I've just been going in and kind of checking on the place. Girls, don't knock me over. I've been kind of checking on the place, and I noticed that you really haven't been cleaning up after yourself very much. And I was like, lady, what are you doing going into my apartment? Why are you going into my apartment? Well, I have that right. I can go into anybody's apartment at any time for any reason. I said, no, you can't. At that time, I was working as a landlord. I said, no, you can't. Don't you know the landlord-tenant laws in our state? And she was like, well, that doesn't apply to me because I live on the property. I said, that would only apply if it was a 4-unit or less building and you were living in one of the units. And then certain laws wouldn't apply. But this still applies. You can't come in my apartment. So, needless to say, less than a week later, my dad died. And when he died, we moved in with my mom. And we just moved out of there. I just gave her notice. We paid her rent for the next month, and we just took off. That was too far. Nobody needs to be going in your apartment, but messing with my dirty underwear. Okay, it's my underwear. Leave it alone.